Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. You have reached Black Authors Matter TV, and it is June 13th. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we have an amazing lineup once again tonight, along with our quarterly book club kickback that we have at the second half of the show with author Connie Briscoe. So we have two guests prior to that, but before we bring the first guest on, I have a couple of announcements. First, if you want to register for the National Black Book Festival, we're at 84% capacity and we're in the late registration period. So we only have a little bit of space left. So if you plan to attend, please sign up to be a participating author. Also, for the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards, the finalists will be announced on this show on August 15th. So we got a lot of submissions, and the panel will be meeting to judge all the books. Some really, really good books got submitted. So it'll be difficult in terms of deciding which ones will be the finalists and then the winners. So we have our first guest on tonight, and we have two books to give away, which we will do later. And we're going to bring on our first guest now. And her name is Crystal Smith Paul. She has a new book out that is really making people talk and creating conversation. And it's called, Did You Hear About Kitty Carr? So we welcome Crystal Smith Paul to Black Authors Matter TV.
Welcome, welcome.
If you can unmute so we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
So do you have a copy of your book with you?
I do, actually.
Okay. Did you hear about Kitty Carr? So is Kitty Carr a real person or a fictional person?
She's fictional.
Okay, so who is Kitty? And what made you come up with the name Kitty Carr? That's
that's a good question.
So Kitty, and what made you come up with that name for her?
Kitty Carr, she is a Hollywood actress. When the book starts, she is already deceased. She is a producer. She's a writer. She's been in the business for a very, very long time, very iconic. And in coming up with her name, truthfully, I really don't know. It kind of came from nowhere is what I will say. So it's not based on anything. It's just a figment of my imagination.
Well, you do have alliteration with it. So
yeah, and it seems like her name fits the personality, the persona that you just described to us. Being well-to-do, being well-known, everybody has that nickname. She's almost like the Beyonce of her time, but she's Kitty Carr.
She is. And I can say that, her name in the book is actually taken from someone else. But, just that name itself, I made up.
Okay. Sometimes when you're writing a story, names just come to you.
They do. And
when you're in that writing mode, they just pop in your head and you just go with them.
Right.
I see people sometimes on social media asking about names for characters. They'll say, give me a name for a woman that was born in the 1920s or something, and people will throw out different names.
I like that.
You need some help, but it's just interesting to hear how people come up with names for their characters.
It is. And a lot of times I Googled them because just the time period, so I would Google the names and just pick one that resonated with me.
So when you do that, what do you Google exactly? What do you search for?
It depends on the time period. So whenever they were born, I Google, girl names, born in 1950,
Okay,
most
like
popular
popular
names.
names from that
Mhm.
era. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's, because some of the names that people name their children now, like Beyonce wouldn't have been a name for
Yeah.
someone 50 years ago,
Right.
True.
Uh,
True.
uh, so I like that. I like the process of doing that. And, Google has some real good qualities in terms of cutting out on time
It
and
does.
helping with answering questions like that at one time people had to go to the library to find out.
Yes, they did.
They had to buy those
I
big
miss
books
those
of
days.
names. That big book of names that was about this thick.
Yes, yes. I miss those days, truthfully. Library research days.
Yes.
Yeah, because not everything is on Google. Most things are not on Google. And so people who only use Google and don't expand their research or just go beyond that, they're missing some things, Google can't capture everything. So now tell us what happens with Kitty.
Okay.
You don't have to tell us the whole story because we don't want you to do spoilers, but just
Okay.
give us an idea about the story.
Okay. So when the book opens, you really don't know that much about Kitty Carr. You know about her Hollywood career, but the book actually is a dual timeline, and it goes from 1934 through 2017. So you end up learning that Kitty Carr is actually from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And you learn the trajectory of her childhood, what she went through as a child. You learn about her mother, and other people that were in the neighborhood where she grew up. And then we follow her to Los Angeles, where she goes to be an actress.
Oh, okay.
So this is kind of historical fiction.
It is history. It has a historical slant.
So it has a dual timeline, so it goes back and forth.
Yes, yes.
So the Winston-Salem angle, we've had several people on the show in recent months from that area, and that's the area both my parents are from. That general area, like that 80-mile radius area. So we've had a couple of people on from Fayetteville. We've had somebody on from Durham, I think. And we had somebody else on that had either they were from Winston-Salem or they had a character in their book that was from Winston-Salem. And it's not a big area,
No, it's not. I know.
But it has a lot of history and it has a lot of Black people. It has a lot of people don't know that there are more HBCUs in North Carolina than any other state.
There are. Yes, there are. Yes. My father was born and raised in Winston-Salem. And he lives there now. Yeah. And I'm actually from Charlotte. So that's the connection to North Carolina.
Okay. All right. So now I believe you live in California. Is that correct?
I do.
So it's still pretty early in the evening for you.
It is. It is.
So do you work in Hollywood? Or do you have like a connection in Hollywood, or you just around? What part of California do you live in?
The beach, Redondo Beach. It's about 15 minutes south of the airport.
Which airport?
Of LAX.
Oh,
LAX.
okay.
Sorry.
So
I'm always like, everyone. Yes, Southern California. Los Angeles International Airport. Excuse me.
Yeah, but the whole state is a beach. Well, the west part of it. So, I don't know which beach is where unless it's related to a city.
Yes. So it's like they call it the South Bay area.
Okay. All right. So with Kitty Carr being a producer and living in that area, how do you make the connection between the North Carolina roots and the Hollywood roots? How
for Kitty Carr or with me, like in my mind?
Kitty Carr. I mean, for Kitty Carr in the plot.
Yes. Well, she always wanted to be an actress, and she has a friend who's working at a film studio. And she finds out that she's actually working as a telephone operator. And she's a little disappointed because she hoped that she was a secretary or, something a little bit more prominent at the studio. And so her friend gets her a job working as a telephone operator. And that's how she starts working at the studio. She then meets the new owner of the studio and becomes his assistant through some, dealings.
Some dealings. That sounds pretty
Yes.
ominous.
Not ominous, but there's definitely there's more to the story.
Right.
She's kind of the one who's showing up, when she doesn't have to. She's on set. She's doing all these kind of assistant duties without being asked and without being paid for them. She stays later, after her day,
She does what she has to do to get where she wants to be.
She does. And then she kind of learns that there's some other strings, that were sort of pulled. And I wish I could say more, but that's kind of the, the mystery of the book in terms of this other thing that's going on.
Yeah, no spoilers.
You're okay. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, there's as far as the time frame, in the 20s, that's the job, one of the few jobs that she probably could have gotten as a Black person in the 20s, in the 20s where the book starts.
It starts in the 1930s.
30s, okay.
But Kitty doesn't get to Hollywood until the 1950s.
Oh, okay. Well, even then, there weren't that many. Is Kitty Black?
She's white.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. That's a twist. I didn't know. Okay.
Well, let me say this to you.
Okay.
Again, I'm trying not to spoil.
Okay.
She is white as the reader knows her. She's white as the reader knows her. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Oh,
right.
okay. Got it.
I got it. We don't want spoilers, but a name like Kitty is that was kind of a giveaway, because that's not a common name for Black people.
No, it's not.
I don't think I've ever met a Kitty.
No.
So
I don't think so either.
Okay. So what made you write the story and put it together and then shop it to get published?
Sure.
And then what kind of reception did you get? How did the process work?
Okay. This book has been truthfully in my heart for a long, long time. And it is dedicated to my great grandmother and my two grandmothers, my maternal and paternal, obviously. And it's really kind of an exploration of my own family tree and trying to fill in some gaps, obviously very fictionalized, of things in my family history that I didn't know. And so that's kind of where the inspiration came from. Also, the movie, The Imitation of Life, the 1959 version. I love that movie, and I watched it as a little girl, and was really, I think it also reminded me of my great grandmother. She had died close, around that time when I saw that movie, and I was really blown away, by issues of race. Always, I was a very mature child, I would say, but also in growing up in North Carolina, race was a constant in my world and something, that I was always grappling with and trying to understand, as most Black children do. So that's kind of the inspiration for it. It's a culmination of my life and, my grandmother's lives, and really, trying to put those pieces together. So I've always known that I wanted to write a novel. It was a very long process to get here. But it was always my goal. So once it was, in written form, fully, and I was as satisfied with it as I could be, then I began, shopping it around to agents. And I've been through this process probably about 3 times, in terms of shopping, getting no, and, me saying okay, I got to work on it some more, going back to the drawing board. And then luckily, I found my agent in 2020, actually. And signed with her, and then got my book deal with Holt. And it's been amazing. The reception has been really exciting. People are reading the book and, really relating to it. And I would say, Black women, but also white women, and, other races too. They message me on Instagram, and it's been really exciting to hear how connected people and how invested people have become in the story.
So people have been kind of seeing themselves or maybe their family members in the story.
They really have. I've gotten
that's a mark of a great writer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. I mean, it's been so special because I really, because this book means so much to me, like from a familial standpoint. So having other people write me about their families and, talking to me about people who could have passed in their family or, just all the different, racial things that I've heard. It's been really exciting.
Now, you mentioned that you've always known you wanted to write a novel. This isn't your first book, is it?
It is.
It is your first book. So then you've done pretty well that you were able to find an agent, especially in 2020, because we know what happened in 2020. And that you've been able to have such good reception for the story. Has this encouraged you to want to keep going, to maybe write more stories or maybe even make a series out of Kitty Carr?
Absolutely. There's going to be more stories. I'm working on my second book right now. So that's in the works, but it's not related. It's a standalone. And I would love to come back to Kitty Carr. We just, we have to see how things go. I would love to do a prequel, actually, based on some of the themes that are in the book and one specific storyline that I can't mention. And then also maybe a sequel. We'll see. I love these characters so much. And I have a lot of characters in the book and there's a lot of things to work with. So definitely, I wanted to be doing this full time.
Well,
it's addictive.
Mm-hmm. You came on our radar through Jane Allen, and that was
I love Jane.
Aware of the book, and then we went from there. So, but then I started seeing it other places after she made us aware that. In fact, she was at your book launch.
She was
on the show, and she had to go because
that same night.
Yeah, the same night.
Okay. I knew that she had like, because when she came, she told me that she had, a call that she had to do, and I didn't put that together. Oh, I love that.
Right. Yeah. So she was telling us about it then. And something I noticed in your description of the book, you talked about in the family, it was seasonal tobacco factory workers. And both of my parents were tobacco farmers in North Carolina, because that's the crop that people picked in North Carolina and Virginia too, but they were in North Carolina. And so my father was a sharecropper. His parents sharecropped, but my mother's parents owned their land. So
I love that.
Yeah, so I'm familiar with it. I heard about it, I never saw it, or I said, thank God I was born later after all that picking of stuff was over with, because I would not have been any good out there. I would have had to figure something out. You're born when you're supposed to be born.
Yes, you are.
Because
it's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also allergic to mosquitoes, so I would have time.
Well, they used to talk about some kind of worm that was on the tobacco leaf that would bite you and really painful. Some of the stories they used to tell, I was like, thank goodness, that was, they were delivered from it because they got education. But both of my parents got education, so they didn't have to do that anymore. And so so your book has an underlying plot about passing.
It does.
And that's where the imitation of life, that whole angle there comes in.
It does, but passing on a whole lot of levels, like definitely racially, but then all of my characters are passing for something, all of them. Because I just think it's an interesting concept in terms of, who we really are and then who we present ourselves to the world. And so kind of, the overarching theme of the book is passing racially, but then also just, in everyday life, passing trying to appear to be this when you're really that. All of the characters in the book do that.
Yeah,
the whole concept of passing is not lost on me, being from New Orleans,
Okay.
Yeah. So, we had a whole community of people who passed at one point in history. So it's a painful part of our history, but it's a real part of our history. And there are still so many stories that haven't been told. So
absolutely.
I think that's what brings an even more interesting aspect to your story, is that somebody made it in Hollywood. And they were going through this at the time. Trying not to give too many spoilers.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But yeah, I've always thought about that too. I mean, just the concept itself, is just really, really interesting. And I mean, people have been doing it for centuries. I'm sure Jewish people tried to pass for Gentile during, World War II. I mean, for safety and other reasons. But I do go pretty deep into that subject. And I really try to show all the different angles of it. Ones who are passing because they, think it's better. And then the other ones who are doing it, for economic prosperity or a better life. Because it's complicated, right?
What's interesting to me, if you've seen the movie Passing.
Yes, I have.
Or if you've read the book, the main character didn't pass because she had to. Well, one of the main characters, she didn't pass because she had to. She passed whenever she wanted to go to a restaurant and not be questioned.
Correct. Or if she just for the ease of it.
Exactly. And I think there were probably a lot of people who did that, not because they had to, because she was married to a Black man. But she's like, I want to go eat downtown today, so I'm going to pass today.
Yeah. My mother's mother.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say my mother's mother, we suspect sometimes did that. She was also married to a Black man and had 13 children, all of who present, Black. But, I'm sure sometimes, she did it. Or if somebody, didn't know, she kind of like let them not know.
Right.
Right. You don't have to, if they assume that you're white, then why why correct complicate things?
That's what Sarah Jane said. Imitation of life.
Immediately, and it also just reflects on the power of racism and the lack of humanity, that a person can change on a dime.
Yeah.
Once they find out you're not white. In this case, it could be something else somewhere else in other settings. Yep. But in America, if a person finds out you're not white, it's an immediate shift. And that says a lot about the culture and the society and that person, that they can immediately, they thought one thought, and then a minute later, another thought made them.
Yeah. All of the wonderful things they were thinking of, you just went right out the window.
Yeah. And you're still the same person.
Still the same person, just arbitrary thing, or shell, as I like to say.
Right. It's arbitrary. Now, I tried watching that Passing movie, but I couldn't get into it.
The book was much better than the movie, of course.
Okay, so I've never read the book. I heard about it for years, but I never read it. And so I couldn't get into the movie because the two Black women that I saw, neither one of them could pass to me. They look Black, so I didn't get it.
Said that.
I didn't get it.
You're not the only one who has those thoughts, right?
But I'm like, they can't tell.
And I love those actresses. I love them, but
they can't tell these two women are Black. Okay, it's something.
Well, sometimes Black knows Black. We'll look at people and say, "Oh, they're Black," and somebody else, another race, might think that they're white.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
That's true, because sometimes when I see somebody and I know that I know that they're Black, but their family is white. You know, the husband and the kids look white, but I know that she's Black, and I'm like, I wonder if they know. Or I'm not gonna spill the beans, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever seen those kids with like the frizzy blonde hair?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You see,
you know, genes pop up places.
Yeah, genes
you know, you never know.
A funny thing.
Mm-hmm.
That they do once the two people get together, it's a free-for-all. You don't know what you're gonna
Absolutely. And so that's like one of the threats in Kitty Carr, because you know, having children is just something that you know you can't do.
Yes.
Or you shouldn't do, rather.
Yes. Mm-hmm. There's been more movies with that underlying theme of passing in recent years.
Yeah.
The Vanishing Half.
The Vanishing Half.
And there was another one, I can't recall it right now. But the book, the Personal Librarian, that was about the librarian for the wealthy man, I can't think of it, but Victoria, the book by Victoria Christopher Murray. That book had
J.P. Morgan.
The whole family was passing, except the husband, and he didn't like that they were passing. It was so it was,
and left them.
Angle.
Yeah, he left. You know, I love that book too. Mm-hmm. It was really interesting, just you know how much she got, you know, being white versus you know,
the access she got.
Yeah, right. The access
to all kinds of opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the half hour already.
I know, it's quick.
It is. So can you tell us where we can find your book and how we can reach out to you?
Yes. Well, you can find the book at bookstores. It's on Amazon, Target.com. And obviously we always like to support our indie bookstores. And then you can find me on Instagram at csmithpaul.
Okay. And you put the link on Macmillan Books to her book page.
Yes, it's in. I put the link to your book in the chat, so people can go right to the link and purchase this book. Which now is the book only in hardback or so? Do you have it in audio or ebook yet?
Yep, in both audio and ebook and hardback.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah. Because I like to listen to books while I take my walks. I just finished listening to Black Girls Must Be Magic. I just finished that while I was taking my walk today.
Yes. And I do want to mention that the audiobook actually has 3 narrators, which is really special. And it's a beautiful, beautiful production. I'm like thrilled with, you know, the actresses and what they did with it. It's beautiful.
I can tell you an actress or an actor, I'll just say the narrator can often make or break an audiobook. There have been times where I just stopped listening to the story because I couldn't take the narrator. So when you have a good narrator, or in your case, a team of narrators, and you can tell that they put care into telling this story, that's a great thing.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful production. So if you like audiobooks, check it out.
Well, show us the cover one more time before you go.
It's a beautiful cover, by the way. I don't know if we talked a lot about the cover.
We didn't.
Yeah.
But did you hear about Kitty Carr? It's by Crystal Smith Paul. And it is and it's in Reese's book club.
That's what I was about to say. That's a nice book club to be in.
Reese Witherspoon's book club. Picked it. That's a
congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So have they discussed it yet, or
they have discussed it? It was the May pick, so you know it was discussed all May, and then also the Reading Black Girls book club. They're reading the book right now, and then the Winebrarian too is also reading it. So it's been, you know, kind of the topic in a few different book clubs, but Reese is done with it right now.
Oh, okay.
It's been read.
That's amazing publicity. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Crystal, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And continued success. We'll be on the lookout for your next book when it comes out.
Sounds good. Talk soon.
Thank you. Take care. Have a great night.
You too. Bye.
Okay. So we're going to bring on our next interview, but before we do, we're going to give away these 2 books. So the first book is called Raleigh Man in the Company of Monsters. This is a middle grade book. It's a middle grade fantasy book, Raleigh Man in the Company of Monsters by Cianon Smart. And the trivia question for this book is, go to my page, my history. Raleigh is the son of an, I made a mistake on that, Rhonda. I meant to say.
Oh, okay. Because I'm like, what is she reading?
Infamous was the word I meant to put. So I'm sorry about that. Raleigh is the son of an infamous monster. What is his father's name? What is the monster's name? So that's the question. I'm sorry. Instead of emphasis, I should have put infamous.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Typing too fast. That's what happens with that. And so the next book, or it could have been AI changing my word.
Wait, what's the word? The
infamous.
Why can I not say the word?
Infamous, like infamous.
Infamous.
Okay, so to get this book, you answer that question. Raleigh, the main character, is the son of an infamous monster. What is his father's name? What is Raleigh's father's name, or the monster's name? And the next book is called The Spite House by Johnny Compton. He was on the show recently. Now, the other book, this book is an art, it's an advanced reading copy. This is a hardcover book. So it's called The Spite House. It's by Johnny Compton. It's in the horror genre. And the name of the small town in Texas that is central to this story in The Spite House, name the town. So whoever does that first for both of those books will get the book mailed to them. So our next guest.
Mary Evans already gave you the first answer.
Okay. All right. Which one did she get?
The Boogeyman.
Okay. All right. So Mary Evans won the first one. Okay. We're going to bring on our next guest, and it is Karen Turner. And Karen recently got some good news that she was a finalist for an awards process.
Yay!
And she also is with Brown Girls Books, which is the publishing house that Rashonda Tate Billingsley and Victoria Christopher Murray established several years ago. I think they just celebrate their 10th anniversary. Did I see that?
Has it been that long already? Wow.
Maybe, has it been 10? It might have been 10. But anyway, maybe Karen knows.
Karen doesn't know, but it sounds good.
So Karen, congratulations.
Hi.
What was the name of the finalist, the award process?
Eric Hoffer Award category finalist.
Okay, and it's for your book, The Other Twin.
Yes.
And you have a copy of your book?
Of course.
Of course.
Let me turn off this blur.
Okay.
So you can see it.
Okay.
There we go.
Twin. All right. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much.
Now, that award process, tell us a little bit about that award. And
well, it's an award
what is it based on?
It's an award that's really focused on smaller independent presses. They tend not to get the same attention that the big publishing houses get. So this particular award is focused on writers, independent publishers, self-publishers. So there's a submission process, and then they judge, and there's a mysterious judging that goes on, and several weeks later you get an email that says, oh, you're a category finalist, but you didn't win, but it's okay.
Yeah, well, being a finalist is an honor.
Closer than I would have had I not done it. So
there you go. There you go.
For my first time, I think that is wonderful. So I'm very, very happy about it. So I was doing a little happy dance. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that it's an honor anytime you compete with a bunch of other books in the category you're in, and the cream rises to the top, and you're in there.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, and my mother was not the judge, so I know that there was some objectivity.
Oh my goodness, you are funny. I like you.
Well, right. It was an objective process,
Yes.
you know. So that's really, really an honor. And great for Brown Girls Books too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That one of their authors won, was a finalist as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
so did they announce the finalists and the winners at the same time? Is that the way their process goes?
I think
do they
so.
announce the finalists and then the winners come later? Because different
I think
ones
the winners, I think I knew about the winners first and then finalists, because I didn't get an email about the winners. I got an email that I was a finalist, but I was looking on the website to see who won, and I saw winners.
So you were stalking is what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. I wanted to know.
Hey, I wanted to know. I think it's great. So tell us a little bit about the other twin and what's the general storyline for the other twin?
Well, the other twin is, I like to call it a sophisticated coming of age story, because it is about young people who are trying to figure out who they are in college, but it approaches it from a intelligent way. When we were in college, or when we were out of high school trying to grow up and be adults, we faced issues that kids these days, older teens and young adults face. And I wanted to make sure that was reflected in the book, because that's how these characters develop. Now, the interesting wrinkle in this book is, obviously it's about twins, and it's about their relationship broken. So the one twin untwins her sister. So we begin the story with a broken sister relationship. And the main character, Ebony, pretty much has to figure out how she's going to get through life without this other person who has basically been who she has defined herself by her entire life. So the book is based on a fictional college campus. I didn't want to offend anybody's college by using a real one. So I made up a college campus, and they live their life. It's their sophomore year, first semester. So imagine all the things that could happen in college in sophomore year. It happens. All of that happens in this book and more. So that's why it's a little more sophisticated than just, a regular Jack and Jill went up the hill kind of story.
Right.
There's drama, there's intrigue, there's romance, there's conflict, there's all of that good stuff.
Well, I think an interesting aspect, even though I love all of what you just named. I mean, I think an interesting aspect, though, is exploring twins who kind of untwin each other, who stop speaking. And often when you think of twins, you think of them being best friends,
right,
always wanting to dress alike. We're going to have a double wedding. So I know, and I'm sure it happens more than I might think, but I just never imagined twins actually just not getting along or not talking to each other. Is that something that you've seen in real life and that you wanted to explore?
No.
It's just something?
It's just something. So none of this is based on anything. I have a weird
nothing wrong with weird imaginations. I was just wondering where you got the idea.
Because I was going to ask, are the twins? I don't know. Twins? Do you have twins? Are there twins?
I don't have twins.
Are you a twin?
I'm not a twin. I don't have twins. I know twins, but none of the twins that I know have untwinned each other. All the twins that I know are in good relationships with their twin. Yeah. But the way this story came to me, it came as a sister and her twin. I don't know why. There was nothing going on in my life at that time that would have suggested that, twins are what you need to write about. The whole story of writing this book is actually a story in itself. But at any rate, once the twins came and once it was clear that they were in college, then there had to be a story to tell.
Right.
And it's not really interesting to just talk about twins who get along and go la, 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 la. There needs to be something more. So then the whole idea of them not liking each other came into being. And then I had to tell us the story of both of them, of the one who wants to get away from her twin and the one who is being abandoned, so to speak, by her twin. So their stories are both told, but the primary focus is the twin who's being abandoned. That's Ebony. The other sister is Essence. She's portrayed as a mean girl. She's really unlikable for most of the book.
Okay. Well, you named them after magazine.
I did. And you know what? It's funny that not everybody catches that immediately.
But it's great, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, you have to name the character something. And so it's just, we were talking about naming characters in the previous interview about how writers come up with names for their characters.
Right.
Sometimes it's random. Sometimes there's a method to it. Sometimes it's just, you know, in this case, it fits. But I love that because they both start with the E, and a lot of times twins' names start with the same letter.
Right. And as far as naming characters, I did use the names of a lot of my friends and family, their first names or their last names, for names of characters and buildings and different scenes in the book I use their names. So when my friends have read it and they see their last name, like, is that me? Were you talking about me? I'm like, yeah, that's you. That was a little fun thing I did along the way. But other than that, there was no real method.
Yeah. So where is the setting for the book? Is it a fictional town as well as school? So the whole, so it's
in Connecticut.
Okay.
Not far from New York, like 2 hours from New York City. Okay. And it is a fictional campus. It's a predominantly white institution. I attended one, and there are not a lot of stories about the Black student experience on white campuses. So that is partly why I made up the campus, because I needed to have a lot more elements than my campus had to make the story have something interesting to tell. So I did use scenes from different campuses that I was on to kind of create this particular campus.
You are right about that. There are books where people are attending an HBCU. Mm-hmm. You know, there's a lot of books like that. I went to a PWI too. So, and the Black experience at a PWI is different.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, and there needs to be a book written. I might put that in another book. You've given me an idea.
In certain ways, though, I mean, because I went to a PWI, and the Black community was actually a little bit closer at a PWI, probably because there weren't as many of us. So not saying that we were all family, we were all friends, but we all knew each other, and the community was a lot closer because there were fewer of us.
Absolutely. And
I think it depends on the school.
Yeah. So this school, I went to a college that was small, so we did not have a large Black community. So we all didn't know each other. We didn't all hang out together, but there was a knowledge or an awareness of every Black person who was on campus. We could, if we walked down the street and saw a Black person, we would know, yes, no, they're not. So, which made it interesting that there was as much racial bias on campus when I was there 30 something odd years ago. There's so few of us. What do you mean you don't recognize me? You know, it's kind of that feeling. And so in this story, the campus that I created is bigger than the one I attended, but the issues are similar, where Black students are being singled out and asked to show ID or prove that they are allowed to be in certain spaces, or they're being questioned or challenged or treated differently in classes. So that some of that is reflected in this book, because that is the lived experience of students on on white campuses, of Black students on white campuses.
There used to be a whole conference called Black Students on Predominantly White Campuses. I went to it one year. Yeah, when I was in college, there was a whole conference just for Black students who went to predominantly white universities. And it was called Black Students on Predominantly White Campuses. We had breakout sessions.
Never heard of it.
Me either, but it sounds like something that was needed. I would have gone if I hadn't had one when I was in school. Just because it's so isolating.
It's a good support
for
me.
For us, because I went to Georgetown, which is a big school. It's not a huge school, but it's not a small school. It's a private school. But there were so few of us, and they made it to where we did get to know each other because they had us come there. Like before I went, when I was a high school senior, they had a weekend. This is how they got us there. They had a Black weekend. And I went, my parents let me go for the weekend in Washington. And I'm thinking when I accepted it, I'll get there in the fall as a freshman, there's gonna be all these Black people. And you get there, like, where are they? You see them here every night. You know, if in your class, you're the only one, unless it's one of those big classes with 200 people, then it'd be two.
Right.
You and another person. It's another. My daughter went to an HBCU and she loved it, and I'm happy about that. That she still has a fond memory. She goes to homecoming. She does all those, you know, her line sister. She pledged. I haven't been back to Georgetown in a long time. Since like 2 or 3 years after I graduated, I haven't been back since. And they call me about making a donation, and I'm like,
all the time, religiously. Yeah.
You know, I'm not gonna give you a nickel. You don't need it. They got $1 billion endowment. They don't need my money. But anyway.
Well, I hope you give your money to somebody. Maybe
I give it to the United Negro College Fund. That's who I donate to.
Yeah.
Because that's you know, they're doing good works.
Yes.
So anyway, but it's interesting that you had that as your setting for Black students and twins. So you had a lot of elements there.
Yeah, just unique, different elements. And I didn't plan for any of it. It just developed. It just came out that way. And I had a little help, you know, from Victoria. She finessed it. That's the nice word for saying that she beat me into submission. But in love.
Sometimes it's difficult having someone critique your work.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and this was my first attempt at writing anything like this. And I obviously didn't know any of the rules. I didn't approach it in a sane way because I wasn't intending to write a book. I was just kind of passing time and writing a story, and it came out and it kept coming out and kept coming out. So eventually when I gave it to her for her to read, then I had to learn the rules and the lines and kind of reframe, rewrite, a lot of stuff so that it could be a story worth telling and a story worth selling and obviously worth reading.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
I can't wait to read it myself. So
this book is a hug. I mean, after you're done, you're going to want to hug it. I promise you, you're going to want to.
He said this book is a hug. That is the quote of the night.
It is. You're going to finish it and you're just going to be like, "Aw." And if you don't, call me and I'll give you your money back. I will give you your money back. Not everybody, just you two.
I mean, people have to tell the story their own way. And so every author of book writing is personal, you know.
It is.
Right.
Yeah. And so as a writer, I know I have the stories that I want to tell, and I really, I tell them, and my position, because I self-publish, so I put my best foot forward, and I say, let the chips fall, and who enjoys it will enjoy it, and who doesn't won't. But
that's with anything. If it's self-published, if it's published by a big house or a small house, people, it's not going to be for everybody.
Right. And not every book is going to be a bestseller, although.
Yeah, that's why you really have to think about who your target audience is.
Yes.
And then you write to that audience. You are not going to make everybody happy. That's why you can't get down. If you get a so-called bad review, it might just be because that book wasn't their cup of tea. It doesn't mean it's a bad book. So don't get depressed about it.
Right, exactly. And I did get a bad review on Amazon. A reader read it, and she said, I feel like I'm reading the diary of a young person. And I wanted to say, yeah, you are. That's kind of how this book is. So, and so that goes to your point. She didn't get it. That's what makes this story. That's how I kind of tell the story, kind of through her diary, her journal entries.
Okay.
So the fact that that's what she didn't like about it, this just wasn't for her. So, whatever.
Yeah, and not everybody's gonna like your book. But one thing I don't like, this is a couple of things I don't like about people who do reviews. I don't like a drive-by review, a 1-star drive-by, where they either they just, now Amazon used to make you actually write something.
Right.
When you rated it. Now they don't.
Yeah.
You can just do a 1-star and keep going. You don't have to say anything.
Yeah, see, I don't like that. I mean, if you're going to give me a 1 or a 2, at least let me know why. Fortunately, I've not gotten a lot of 1 or 2s in my career. Thank God for that. But if you don't like it, I would love to know why you don't like it. Don't just throw it out there, because now you just look like a hater.
Right.
And then it's anonymous because
haters gonna hate.
Yeah. Right. And you don't know who it is because it's anonymous. I mean, they can do it anonymously and just do this 1-star, but you can't dwell on that. And so
no, not at all.
I do want to reference something you had in your bio about your health challenge you had. And
that's putting it mildly.
I want to know if your health challenge, which was a major health challenge.
Yes.
Then you can tell however much you want of it. But did that happen before you wrote the book?
Yes. So in 2011, I was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer.
Oh, wow.
Glioblastoma. And it is the, obviously I'm an overachiever. So it was the deadliest, the most aggressive kind of brain cancer you could be diagnosed with. And the prognosis was very, very bad. As you've probably heard many, like John, I can't even remember his name, Ted Kennedy, Bo Biden, they all had that same diagnosis, and they died within 2 years probably. So I did not have that same outcome. And for me, God and I had this understanding that, okay, this is now my assignment to get through this and then do something. What that was going to be, I did not know. But I can say that life post that diagnosis has been so amazing, so much more than I ever could have imagined. And it would not have happened, I think, had I not had to completely stop everything. I had been a trial lawyer for 22 years. So I was moving and, doing all of that and just kind of stay on that path. But this diagnosis stopped everything and put a lot of things in perspective. So I just completely had to stop everything. I was not able to do really anything for a little while. And then slowly came back and started working again. And then just deciding that I don't know how long I'm going to be here. So I want to start doing things that matter to me. My daughter was 14 years old at the time, and I really wanted to be very present for her and do what would bring her life fulfillment and joy, and as well as mine. So along the way, my health was perfect. I didn't have any recurrences. I didn't have any long-term physical side effects from any of the treatment. I did have some of the executive function difficulties that made it hard to go back to doing the kind of work I used to do. Not to mention I had to eliminate that level of stress. But around 2016, when my daughter was getting ready for college and going into college, is when I started thinking about writing creatively. I tell people I've been a storyteller all my life. As a little kid, I used to, with my Barbie dolls, I used to make up stories with my Barbie dolls. I think more obsessively than other kids, because they had whole lives. They didn't just come out the box. They came from somewhere, they were going somewhere. Ken had a job, and it was just very, very involved, and it was all in my head. So I kept all of those stories in my head for a long time. And then as my daughter was starting to write and create, we would talk about different story ideas, and I would kind of helicopter her writing, and she told me to get out her face in a nice respectful way and just go write on my own. So I read the book Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, and that book really propelled me to open my computer and just start writing. So the health challenge erased my slate of all the things that I had been holding on to, that I had been doing, that God decided, okay, you've done that, you've done well, it's time to do something else. And so the something else, I believe, was this writing experience. It took a while for me to get there because I didn't know that that's what I needed to do. But once I started, I could not have imagined doing anything else. So I just love it. I really do.
So are you still practicing law?
I do, but I'm not a trial lawyer anymore. I work in-house as in-house counsel at Howard University.
Oh, okay.
You're at Howard?
I am.
Girl, you're right down the street.
Right
we need to have lunch.
Right down
Let's do that.
I live in Silver Spring. I'm gonna call you, girl.
Oh yeah, I'm not far from Silver Spring. 10 minutes, actually. I'm pointing. You see me pointing because it's
I know, right?
Yeah, I'm not far from Tacoma Metro.
Oh, okay. So yeah, we're real close.
We could probably walk. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to link up.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask, first of all, that was a beautiful testimony you just shared. Yeah. And so thank you for doing that, because there are people out here who are suffering from chronic illnesses,
yes,
or the like, and
yes,
they're thinking that that's it for them. But you basically find a whole new life almost, because
absolutely,
you decided to go pursue something that you've wanted to do.
Yeah. And part of it is surrender. So when I remember being in the hospital and hearing those words and hearing what was ahead, there was nothing I could do about it but to surrender and just let go and let God. And I knew that I didn't feel like that was my end. I knew that there was more to me and more to my work. And I have actually become an advocate in the brain cancer community. I do a lot of fundraising and a lot of advocacy work in that space. And I'm an advocate. That's what I do as an attorney. So it makes sense that I would use those gifts in this space where the voices are not as loud, because even though this is a very deadly cancer, it affects a small number of people in the larger scheme of people with cancer. It's much smaller percentage of people who have stage 4 glioblastoma than have breast cancer or prostate cancer. Those cancers get a lot of attention and a lot of funding for research and treatments. This cancer does not, but it is a very costly one, and it does affect more people than we realize. Every year, I'm shocked at the number of people in my network that are impacted by brain tumors or brain cancer. In the African American community, especially. And we don't talk about it. So there may be more than we even know, but they just say, okay, well, it's not anything that other people have because it's so rare. But it's rare, but it's like 15 of us who have the same rare condition. We can be a support to each other and to the people who care for us. So I'm very now, involved in that space, hoping to just bring more attention and awareness and funding to find better cures and better treatments, because there are hundreds of types of brain cancers, but maybe like four treatments, and it's so expensive.
Have you thought of we're going all into the next hour, Gwen.
Yeah. So
sorry.
Before we go, show a copy of your book again.
The Other Twin. And it was just recently announced as a finalist for you have to repeat it. Eric Hoffer Book Award category finalist.
Okay.
That means it's really good.
That's right. It means it's really good. Well, thank you so much, Karen, for being with us on Black Authors Matter TV, when we're excited about your success and also about your full recovery from cancer.
Thank
you very much. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. I will definitely be reading the book. Congratulations on a great story.
Thank you. And let me know if you hug the book at the end.
Okay.
I will. I already know I'm going to hug the book. That's what I'm about to get.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Blessings to you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, well, we gave away our 2 books, and now we are going to have our book club kickback with Connie Briscoe, and we're going to be discussing her book.
You Never Know.
You Never Know by Connie Briscoe. So we have Connie, and we have 4 book club members logged on, and some others may log on later, but right now, we have these, and we're going to, the way we do our book club kickback is we have the book clubs announce their book club and where they're located on camera, and then hopefully they'll all be on camera the whole time. But before we discuss the book, we like to do a roll call so we know who we have participating in the kickback. So we'll start with Dondi Dancy. Name your book club and what city and state you're located in.
It's called Hush Harbor Lit Club, and I'm located in the Bay Area of California, but my members are pretty much everywhere. Most of them are in the Mid-South, but there are a few in Cuba and Brazil and Nigeria and places like that. We only meet on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
International.
Yeah. Okay. Zoom has allowed us to be able to do that.
Yes.
Where we didn't really have that before, pre-COVID. We didn't have that opportunity, or we didn't take advantage of it. We didn't really know about it. So, Melinda Wynn, you want to tell where you're from and the name of your book club?
Yes, we're based in Atlanta, Georgia, but we also have members in Florida too. And it's the At the Kitchen Table book club.
Okay.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. And LaWanna Johnson is not on camera or on, there she comes. Okay.
Hi, ladies. How y'all doing? I'm with Black Pearls Keeping It Real Book Club, and we're located in Dallas, Texas, and we'll be celebrating 23 years in August.
Okay. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay. And Emma, you're not on camera or you got your mic off. So are you able to tell us where you are located? And
yes, I'm also with Black Pearls Keeping It Real in Dallas, Texas.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we have the author on, Connie Briscoe. And Connie, welcome. You've been on Black Authors Matter TV once before last year. And we let you know we were going to have you back to discuss your book when it came out. So congratulations on the release of your book. And I'm going to show the cover again. And because you haven't had a novel out in a while. So before we start with the book discussion, just tell us a little bit about your books over the years. Just a little bit, like give us a encapsulation of your writing and what made you write again. What made you come out of your hiatus?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, I hadn't written a book probably in at least 10 years. I needed a break, I needed a rest. And as someone once said, if you are really a writer, you have to write. So eventually I decided I wanted to come back, but I wanted to change from the primarily relationship novels that I was writing before and to try something different. I'd always enjoyed mysteries, suspense novels, and I thought I would try my hand at that. I've always enjoyed reading them. I was a huge fan. I probably read, Agatha Christie wrote 80 books. I probably read 50 or 60 of them, and plus many other mystery writers. I was a huge mystery fan. I didn't write it initially. In fact, when I wrote my first novel, Sisters and Lovers, I had initially thought to try to write a mystery. But I thought a mystery at that time, especially for a first novel, would be too complicated, or at least that was how I saw it. And a relationship novel, I could just write about the life I was living, the life my girlfriends were living. So I went ahead and wrote Sisters and Lovers, and I put the suspense or mystery novel on the back burner.
Okay.
Yeah, it is tough to write a mystery novel. You have to make sure that every crumb that you drop makes sense at the end. And you have to be able to keep all of your facts straight. I don't know. Are we ready to jump into the book yet? We're not ready to jump into the book yet, are we?
Well, we'll take a couple more minutes.
Yeah, let's wait a minute, because I'm ready to jump in.
But you're exactly right. You have to be much more careful about the plot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I was going. And I was about to start asking you about the book, but we weren't ready yet. But I did want to ask you, how do you do that build up to the plot, in a mystery novel, and, just to make sure that everything stays straight and makes sense?
You have to do a lot of planning and plotting before you even start writing. You have to have a lot of that in place, at least roughly, before you start writing. And for me, it was about doing a lot of research about how you do it, reading books that other authors have written, reading books about writing mysteries. So yeah, it takes a lot more work. I think it was always kind of in me in a way, because if you read some of my previous relationship novels, a lot of them have a little mystery or a little suspense built into them. So I think it was always kind of ingrained in me. I just had to explore it deeper and do more research and trying to figure out exactly how to carry it out. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And so we'll discuss the book. I have a starting question, and then everybody else, all the other clubs on the call, I don't know if you all have been on before on a book club kickback, because we always have different people. I think Dondi has, but at any rate, don't feel shy. Jump in whenever you want, whenever you have a question. And we just keep the conversation going. At the end of the discussion, we will give away 3 autographed copies of Connie's book. And it's based on trivia that's from the plot of the book. So we asked 3 trivia questions from the plot of the book, which means you had to have read the book to be able to answer the questions. So the question that I have, and let me get a sip of water. It seems like the hearing impairment was a central theme in the book. It was referenced several times. And so I don't remember, but I haven't read all of your other books. I have read some of them. I read so much, and your other books were like 1,000 5,000 books.
There were a lot of them, yeah.
I've read 5,000 books since then. I can't remember all the plots. But have you had hearing impairment as a central theme in your books before?
No, this was the first one. I had been asked a few times by others to include a deaf character or to focus on a deaf character. And I always resisted initially because even though I am hearing impaired myself, severely hearing impaired, I have a cochlear implant, which has been restored a lot of my hearing. But deafness has many different factors, many different sectors. I don't know what the exact word is, but it's not all monolithic. There are different types of deafness. Mm-hmm. And when most people think of deafness, they think of the hearing impaired community that uses sign language, ASL, that kind of thing. I've never been a part of that community because I was not born deaf. I was born with a mild hearing loss that got progressively worse. So I knew at that for the longest time, still do, little to no sign language. I was never a part of the basic deaf community. So I didn't feel right expressing that or coming from that base because I was really not a part of that. I was a hearing person who lost their hearing, which is different from a person who is born deaf and is immersed in the deaf culture from birth or early on. But then I decided, why not write about that person who becomes deaf later on and may not be fluent in ASL, because that is a huge part of deafness too. So why not just write and express that side, which I knew from a personal perspective. I never liked writing too much, at least with my main characters, about someone whose life I have not at least experienced, at least in part, in some sort of way, because I would not feel comfortable getting into that if I haven't experienced it, which is why I've never written from a male perspective. I have tackled white characters, but they were not the main character. So, that's pretty much why I held off on focusing on a deaf character.
Well, one thing I think is interesting is that you had a hearing impaired character and You Never Know, but that wasn't all she was. And you didn't make her feel like she was somebody with special needs that everybody had to cater to. She still led a regular life. And I think that's important to be able to show characters like that in that type of light.
Because that is what I think I've lived pretty much. You don't think of yourself as leading this different sort of life, especially if you're not immersed in the deaf community. I have met deaf people. I worked at Gallaudet University for a number of years, but I've never been a part of the deaf culture. It's a very insular community. You have to either be born in it or marry into it to really, truly be accepted in the community. And I've never been either of those. So that's kind of what I was showing, is that when you're deaf, it's very much a part of your life, but it's not all of your life. It's not even the main part of your life. Because you just manage to get by some kind of way. Even before I got the cochlear implant, I had hearing aids, I read lips. So you manage to get by and just try to live as normal a life as you can, which is exactly what you just described. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I've heard you say that before. It was many years ago. When I lived in St. Louis, you gave a speech at Central Institute for the Deaf. And that was what you focused on, was that one of the things you said was that everyone has something, and that to have hearing inefficiency was, I think, how you described it then, does not make you any less of a person, and doesn't make you necessarily
kind of breaking up.
a person. Oh, I'm sorry.
At least for me, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying, and that I think that's true of any handicap. The handicap is not who you are; it's a part of who you are.
That's what you said.
It doesn't define you.
Think of yourself as having a handicap or a disability. Think of yourself as having a disadvantage, and you have to figure out how to make your disadvantage work to your advantage. And
Yes.
that was many
That's a nice way
years ago
of putting it.
before I ever had a child. And I honestly didn't read the book, but when I saw she was coming, I had to come because I saw you give a speech many years ago, like over 25 years ago in St. Louis.
That's exactly true. You cannot let it overtake your life. You have to deal with the challenges as they come, and then just live your life as best you see fit. I will say that after having worked at Gallaudet University, those people who are in the deaf community or the deaf culture because they were born deaf or and have been deaf for most of their lives, they don't consider themselves, they know they have a disability, but they don't consider themselves impaired or handicapped in any way. A lot of them, because a lot of them are associated with other deaf people. So they seem to fit in. They have good jobs. A lot of them go on to have good educations, to go to college. But that's not to say they don't struggle. There is some struggle there, but they do. It's not the be all end all of your life when you have deafness or any other handicap or disability.
Yes, I mean, they're regular people who may happen to have a disability, but it doesn't define them.
Yeah, it's just, in some ways, it almost parallels being a minority. It doesn't, you have to learn to deal with it and to cope with it and then get on with your life. It doesn't define you. It doesn't hold, it can hold you back, but you have to find ways to overcome it and to get past the challenges that it brings to your life.
Okay, so does anyone else have a question before I ask the next one? And don't be bashful. Feel free to jump right in because
yeah, go ahead.
If you have something that you want to ask, you have the author here. And now there's no time like the present. Basically, a lot of times we discuss the plot of the book, but because it was a central theme with the hearing impairment, I noticed it throughout. You discussed it throughout the book.
Yeah, there are a lot of scenes, especially in the beginning, as I'm defining the character, where her deafness comes out. But I really think of it more as a book about romance, suspense. It's a woman who meets and marries someone who she thinks is the man of her dreams after getting out of a bad up and down relationship with a previous boyfriend, a long-term relationship. And she thinks she's finally found happiness, only to be suddenly out of nowhere attacked in the middle of the night. And so she and we are left wondering, who was it? Was her husband? Was it her husband, the previous boyfriend, a neighbor? So I think of it mainly as about a woman who is trying to figure out what is going on with the men in her life, even as she copes with being hearing impaired.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Alexis is the main character. And
let me 1 second. I need to close the door. I'll be right back.
Oh, okay. All right. So I want to find out who Alexis is. Like, is it someone she knows, met, or is it?
Yeah, I didn't want the noise to get in here. Okay, go on.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to know about Alexis. Is Alexis a fictional character? Is she like a compilation of people that you know or have met? Frankly, Alexis seems very naive for a grown woman, but they're out there.
There are a lot of women who are naive. She is, I wouldn't say she's based on anyone in particular other than, except for me and the deafness. She is purely fictional. In most of my novels, I think the women start out, the main characters who are women, start out lacking in some way or vulnerable or weak in some way, and they grow stronger throughout the course of the novel, which I hope Alexis does. She becomes a little bit wiser, more aware of her surroundings and what is going on with her. But yeah, no, she's not based on anyone in real life. She's purely fictional.
Okay.
At least not consciously, you know, sometimes subconsciously those things happen.
She seems to be a bit of a romantic. She gets swept off her feet very easily.
She's the type of woman, and that was a conscious decision, who needs a man in her life. But there are a lot of women like that who,
oh, absolutely,
yeah, need a man in their lives. And this can be, I don't want to say crippling, but it can be a hindrance in that if you can't, you know, you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet before you can be in a healthy relationship. And there's some of that in her too. Yes, definitely. That was a conscious decision. And that's another thing. When you are writing suspense or a mystery or thriller, and you have a main character, particularly a woman, it's often the case where you will find that the woman is naive or she's vulnerable in some way, because that's how you create the suspense around her. That's how you make it seem like she's in danger. Like, you know how you have these mysteries at times when the character, especially a woman, but men too, but women, because they're more vulnerable, they go into, you know, they know there's danger in the room on the other side of the house, and yet they go into the room to try to see what the danger is, and you're yelling at them, don't go in there, don't go in there. But they do anyway. But that's how you get the drama and the suspense. There was one author, I believe it was Lawrence Sanders, who wrote the Sin books, and he said one of the reasons he chose women as his main characters generally was because they're more vulnerable. It's easier to make them victims of yes, than it is in say a male who could fight back with strength. Now that doesn't mean that women cannot fight back and fend for themselves, and that's what usually happens in the end. But you start out with this belief that they may be at a disadvantage in a difficult situation. And that's what you want to see, how they get out of it.
Okay.
Well, I thought it was interesting that she was naive, but she thought she was smarter than the other wives.
You thought she was smarter than the other wives?
I felt like she thought she was. Like,
I'm sure, yeah, when someone is naive, they don't realize that they are. I don't think, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson that she has to learn, I guess, and hopefully in some way. While she's not at the end completely solved the situation, I think she's resolved to figure out her life and to lead a better path. And I don't want to give away too much, but
no, don't give away too much.
This book is kind of difficult to really talk about in detail.
Yeah, we try to leave
giving
something
away
right.
Spoilers, yeah.
We try to leave something because we do want people who haven't read the book to buy the book and read it. But we like to have the conversation with the author, find out what the thinking was on some of the character development and just some of the responses that you've gotten from people who read the book. I know for Alexis, one thing, when a man generally in a book or in real life, when he's sweeping you off your feet, like when it's moving too fast, normally that's like a red flag.
Yes.
You know, because why move so fast if it's a rest of our lives situation? We don't need to move so fast that I can't figure out what's going on. You know, it's like to pull the wool over your eyes.
And maybe that's a lesson in the book, is that, you know, be more careful about what you're getting into. You never know. You know what, even some women who are in long-term relationships end up not realizing they don't know the person that they're with, or they don't know them like they thought they knew them. So this happens all the time in long-term relationships and short-term relationships. But you're right, it does happen. It is more likely to happen when you don't know the person as well, when you start getting involved. But how many of us have done that, or how many women at some point have done that? That's why I said it's a red flag. They jump in too soon. Yeah, and hopefully it's not as extreme when you find out as it is for Alexis. But yeah, there's some, yeah, definitely.
Like giving somebody an expensive gift and you barely know them. Either you're irresponsible with money, or you're trying to pull the wool over my eyes or the person's eyes, because you don't normally do that. You know,
and
a person doesn't normally spend a large sum of money on somebody they barely know. It's just, even if they have it, but you know.
And I think in Alexis's case, she's more susceptible to that because she's just coming out of a bad relationship with someone, and she
was on the
looking
rebound.
for someone to fix that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you all define her as needing a man. So if you define the character as needing a man, like that kind of oozes from her. And okay, so here's a man that's spending money on me. Like, let me swoop in before some other chick does. Like you said, Miss Gwen, like everybody's been there. Everybody's ignored that red flag and swore it was pink. Everybody's done it. Because she laughing at me.
But it's true. You know,
or we grow into that grace. We grow into the grace of knowing okay, girl, that flag is red. Stop.
Yeah.
Like, we don't always have that grace.
Yeah, all the gifts are normally there are camouflage, because if somebody is really like giving you a lot of, sending you flowers and giving you all this stuff, then you're not as apt to ask a lot of extra questions.
The questions you should be asking,
you know.
Yes.
And so,
and also too, it depends on the person. I think if a person is wealthy, as Marcus is, you kind of figure that this is not such a big deal for him to.
Right. What's expensive to me may not be expensive to him.
Yes, exactly.
And let me step my game up.
Yeah.
He's not going to miss the money.
It also just means, because Miss Gwen is saying that's a red flag and she is naive. That's a good book. It's very believable. It's very believable and relatable.
It is believable. And I guess when you there's like a before and after point of view as a female. Before you had that experience and after you had that experience. So it's like you can see things that you didn't see the before. You didn't see it because you just thought it was the person being nice or whatever, you know. And you know, she was on the rebound, and a lot of times
on the rebound.
On the rebound, you're more vulnerable, and that was where she was.
And hopefully, when you get into these kinds of relationships, which is what something I hope I'm showing with Alexis, is that, and you make all these mistakes because you got into it too quickly, or maybe you got into it for the wrong reasons. Hopefully, when you do get out of it, if you survive, you've learned something and you do better the next time. And I think especially when we're young, each failed relationship is a learning experience.
Yeah.
It should be. Yes.
That is
very true.
Definitely true.
And Alexis,
and then there are those women who never learn and just keep getting into it. For me, there
are some that don't. But Melinda, go ahead, because this is your first time talking. And I think this is your first book.
I was just saying that Alexis's lesson almost cost her life.
It did.
Yeah.
Yes.
It did.
It did. I don't think.
Really?
And of course, it being a suspense novel, this is not the typical scenario, but it does happen. I will say, without going into detail, the scene with Paul where she nearly loses her life, that is based on something real that happened. I won't say who to, but, and I've heard from a couple of women where, without going into detail about what happens with her, and I'm sure if you've read it, you probably know which scene I'm talking about. This is something that was described to me very vividly as really happening, and it was with someone that the person had known for years. So that kind of to say, even though you think you may know someone, sometimes you just don't. You never know what people are capable of, unfortunately.
Yes. And everybody was looking suspect. I was looking at everyone.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Then it worked. It should, yeah.
I mean, ex-boyfriends, husband,
ex-girlfriend,
everybody.
some of those, everybody. That's true.
I never knew. So the title was perfect.
The title. You never know. That's what it says.
Yes, exactly. You never know what you've gotten, getting yourself into. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
especially when you jump too quickly.
She definitely had her share of experiences.
Yes.
And one thing that, and I'm trying to ask this without giving away too much of the plot, but some of the ways that she decided to do some of her detective work, to get the answers to what she was trying to find out, that was creative.
Okay, are you talking about I'm talking about a little more detail there. Searching his office, those things.
Right. Because she wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Yes, she realized that something was going on, and she finally decided to take action. Maybe a little risky.
She was very risky.
Yeah, it was risky.
Especially if he was the one doing all this. But, at some point you do have to, I guess she was in a quandary, she had to either prove to herself that her husband was okay, or if he wasn't, she needed to know it so she could get out of there, So, yeah.
Yeah, now was Marcus or Paul, were they based on? So Luana, welcome. So now you're on camera. So you, but
now you're on mute.
Unmute so we can hear your voice. I don't know if you decided to go on camera because you had a question. Do you have a question?
Oh, I was just going to tell Connie that I really enjoyed the book. I listened to it, and I liked all the characters. They was, the neighbors, the one who was her so-called friend. I'm not going to give it away. And the only thing is, I want to tell her that I like audiobooks. And by the book being named Alexa, it gave my Alexa, there she go. Every time the book, my Alexa, so I had to keep my earbuds in to listen to it. So I couldn't really listen to it in the house because my Alexa would keep going off.
So you have an Alexa?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I have Alexa. And the first time I was listening to it at night, and then, they say the character name, and then she started vibrating, like, humming. I said, oh, that's what. And so I don't have to put my earbuds in, but I also want to tell you, I really enjoyed the book, and I think I'm going to have the book club do it. I think Domestic Violence Month, is it in October? I think I'm going to have the book club, I'm going to have us read it in October. I was going to tell you, I just really enjoyed the characters and everything. Okay, and thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Gwen, for the invitation.
I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know. I appreciate it.
Okay.
That is funny about Alexa and Alexis. Because the voice, that when the audio of you playing it out loud, then Alexa would pick up or answer or whatever. So that is funny. I wonder if that's happened to anybody else.
It didn't happen to me. I listened to it on audio as well, but no, that didn't happen to me. Maybe because I kept my earbuds in, and I was either listening to it in my car or during my walks. So I didn't have that problem. I didn't listen to it.
See, I put mine on at night before I go to bed. I put on a timer, and I have a speaker. I have like a little speaker that I can listen to it in the bedroom. So that's why I was picking up on mine, because like I listen to a book before I go to bed. So that's why it was listening to hear it, picking up on it.
Okay, I do most of my reading at night. Well, I have to. It's after work time when it's quiet, but I still haven't. I've never listened to a book, and so many people I know, so many people I know do it, but I don't know.
It's the only way to do it. It's so good when you have, especially a good narrator. And she had a very good narrator on the book. Yes. It makes you feel like you're there, you're listening, and you get all into it. I don't have have time to read because I look at computers all day. So if I read, I'll go to sleep. So audio, that's on the way to oh my, we have to get you.
Well, see, I don't commute. I don't commute.
I've never listened. I'm like you. I've never listened to a book.
But I work at home. When I go to the office, I'm only like 10 minutes away from my office. So there's no, so I can't do it in the car, and I listen to music in the car. So I don't know. I just never have done it.
While you're cooking, while you're cleaning up, washing dishes, it's always time to listen. That's what that's all the way me and Miss Emma.
Something about how paper feels, like the feel of the paper, and just turning the pages, and just I'm with you, Gwen. Like you can just tune people out. When
I literally can tune everything out. The TV might be on, but I don't hear it.
Like for me, it's a choice. It just depends. I mean, I can either hold the book or I can listen to it on audio, but because I'm always busy, I'm always on the go, and I'm trying to get back into my power walks more. I listen to audiobooks a lot more than I do actually holding a physical book, but I still enjoy holding a physical book. So I mean, I get
that, but for me, a part of the experience or the reason for reading a book is to get away from all that, is to relax and to get away from, all the hecticness, if that's the word, hecticness going around or going on in your life. And so when you do the audio thing, and I'm not knocking it, but for me, that would be defeating the purpose of sitting down and reading.
Well, for me, when I'm holding a book, it's a whole thing. I have to be comfortable in bed. I have to have my glass of wine.
I don't know if have I ever read a book under the influence? Well, one glass of wine will give me buzz. I'm lightweight.
But you can't have any, Gwen.
Maybe a little bit, but more than that, and I want to, to take a nap.
So I don't know. I just seem like my train of thought would drift if I had some wine, but I've never tried it. I might try it and see. I have to try some of these things y'all are doing.
Well, I put it like this: my goal this year is 100 books. So that's that's the reason why I can get in more books. I can listen to books while I'm working.
Okay.
And while I'm in the grocery store, I listen to books when I go to bed. So I have a goal. It's like I finished a book last night.
Girl.
Yeah. So that's why I love books, and my vision and looking at computers and looking at books, reading. That's the reason why I do more audio now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so that's how I did her.
Well, I mean, we're fortunate to have a wide variety of ways to read these days. So take advantage of whatever works for you.
Yeah, because we used to only have paper, and now we have ebooks and audiobooks. So
exactly.
When we first got started in the book in this industry, at the end we started December of '98.
Paperbacks and hardbacks. That was it.
Yeah, there was no ebook then, and definitely no audiobook. So the industry has evolved, and it's embracing some people and introducing them to books they may not read, but that they will listen to. So, that's an audience. I have to think about that for my my book I'm releasing later this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're both going to be releasing books later this year. When you have challenged me, I'm here with you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'm writing a sequel to a book that I actually published 10 years ago.
Oh wow!
So but in the book, only 5 years have passed because I had to shorten the time frame.
The time between
story, and so I'm considering doing it on audio.
Well, if you do it on audio, I will be listening.
Okay, well, I'll think about that. Okay, you challenged me, but my main characters in both books are men.
Really?
I write a male character very good. All of my and white. I mean, I have white male black characters. I have females too. In the sequel, the females are a little more prominent than they were in the first book. In the first book, it was almost all males and just So,
Some
but you know,
people are
I was
comfortable with
surrounded by
that.
alpha males. You know, my dad was an alpha male, my husband's an alpha male, my brothers, you know, and I worked around a lot of alpha male type. So I can get in their minds, and you know, they operate, they're single-minded, they're very self-centered. The testosterone is what drives them at it. So, but I love the fact that people have an option, and the feedback is based on how you listen to the book. I mean, how you receive the book. If you read it or if you listen to it, like you get a different feel for that.
Okay. I wouldn't know because I've never listened to a book, but I can imagine that.
Yeah, I keep saying I'm going to do it, but see, where do I start? Which one do I start with? See, that's well, I've already read it, so I don't.
Well, listen to it. Well, listen to it. Listen to it. Yeah, go listen to it too.
I know what happens. It's like watching a movie after you read the book. You already know everything that's going to happen.
I know there's some movies you didn't watch twice.
Oh yeah, some movies I've watched. I got a list that I've watched maybe 50 times. I got my favorite list. Like I'll watch certain scenes over and over. I love it. So,
and they got
anyway,
books I read twice. So,
but I don't read books twice.
I have. If they really good, I go back and read them again.
Yeah, I don't read books twice.
Like years later, like 10 years later, 10 years later, I might go back and read it again. And like, oh, okay.
There's only been a couple that I've done that with because there's so many books to read. Yeah. There's so many new books now being released that I don't need to go back and read one. But I've done it a couple of times. I have done that a couple of times. Yeah. But usually I have a to-be-read list. I'm going for the next one, whatever the next one is. And I try to read 3 books a month. So, and the books I tend to read tend to be, hefty, 350, 400 pages. Ooh. So, yeah, if it's a good book, that's what I want. I want a page count.
She said, that's a lot.
Story to keep going.
That's about 18 hours of listening.
Well, it could. I don't think it's 18 hours of reading. I don't know. I don't time myself like that. But you're probably right. You're probably right. So, Connie, what we need to do now is we have some closing remarks, and then we're going to do our trivia.
Oh, okay. I was told that this was going to be about a 30-minute interview.
Oh no, this is 1 hour. It's always an hour.
I got something that said 25 to 30 minutes. Okay. Because okay. All right. Someone sent me something in writing that said 25 to 30 minutes, but I will try to get through it. Okay.
Okay. Well, you don't necessarily have to be on screen for the trivia if we're running late for you.
But you need me here for the okay.
Mm-hmm. But we don't have to be.
Okay.
But we would love for you to be if you can.
So you thinking about another 10 minutes or
yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
That's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not gonna keep you all night.
Unless you want to be.
And I know you're on the East Coast, so you're an hour ahead. So of me. So okay, we're ready for the trivia questions about the book. So the first one is, and you'll get, whoever answers correctly will get an autographed copy of You Never Know. So the first question is, when Marcus proposed to Alexis, he played a song on his guitar by which musical artist? Ooh, and if you're on the Zoom, you need to do it in the chat. And if you're on Facebook, you do it by putting it in the comments. So let me repeat the question. And the question is, and this is about the book, when Marcus proposed to Alexis, he played a song on his guitar by which musical artist? And it's a known artist. So does anybody know the answer to that? You can, if you're on the screen, you can do it in the chat, or if you're online, you can put it in the comments. So I don't see any answers yet. So I'm going to go to the next question. Yeah, when we do trivia, no, it's not Will Downing. Somebody said Will Downing. It's not Will Downing.
Mary Evans said the Spinners.
The Spinners, no. See, Mary just threw anything out there. No, it's not. So I'm gonna go. You all can continue to try to guess, or if you read the book, see, it's in the plot of the story, and so you might have like read over it or read past it. But if you know, type it in the chat if you're on the screen. So the next trivia question is, what city was Marcus in when Paul said he saw him coming out of a condo with another woman? So what city was Marcus in when Paul said he saw Marcus coming out of a condo with another woman? What city was Marcus in at the time that happened?
Mary Landrum just answered the second question, or the first question. She said John Legend.
That's correct. John Legend was the musical artist that was in the book. So, and Angela Wood got it too.
Yeah, and Angela Wood said DC.
Okay, so Mary Landrum and Angela Wood, the way that we give away the books, you have, because you all aren't perpetual winners of books, we don't have your mailing address. So what you'll do on the page you're on the National Black Book Festival page on Facebook, you will DM us your address. Put your name and address, say you won the book, and you'll send us a direct message with your name and address. Congratulations to Mary Landrum and Angela Wood. You all are first-time winners, as far as I know. And Mary Evans said, "Oh man, she always wins. You already won a book tonight, Mary." So
stop being greedy, Mary.
Stop being greedy. Okay, here's the final trivia question, because we asked 3 questions. The final one is, what form of birth control did Alexis use? So in the book, Alexis talks about birth control. And
Mary says so.
Oh, she said so. She won a book already. So
yeah.
But you win another one if you get the answer right. So, but it wasn't the Spinners for the musical artist. It wasn't Spinners. So Alexis uses a particular form of birth control. What is it? So if you get that answer, then you win the book. Now, Angela, you already won 1 book, so you can't win another book. So I'm not gonna say the answer that she gave, although it was the right one. But on the autograph ones, you can only win 1. So if anybody else, if somebody else types the same thing Angela Wood typed, they can get it. So I just don't want to say it out loud. So there was a particular form of birth control that Alexis used in the book. Oh, Angela said that's fine. Okay. Yeah, you can only win 1 of the autograph books. So anybody else want to try to guess what form of birth control Alexis used in the book? No, well,
Barbara Brown Myers said diaphragm.
Mary Evans said hormone-free birth control. That's not the answer.
Mary, you know that wasn't correct. You're just making stuff up.
What is that? I don't even know what hormone-free birth control. Okay, Barbara Brown Myers got the answer correct. Diaphragm. She used a diaphragm. So I didn't even know that was still a thing. I didn't even know people are still using those. But Mary put laughing faces with tears. Anyway, Barbara, you are correct. To get your book, you DM us your mailing address. You should be on the same page you're on, the National Black Book Festival Facebook page, and then you we'll send you your autographed book. So that's it. And so Connie, we are very, very happy that you decided to appear on with the book club kickback, and we're sorry that it went a little longer. And but I mean, normally they last.
I'm not imagining it. I don't think, but that's fine. I had thought it was an hour, but then I got an email message that said 25 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, that was an error on our part.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
No problem. That's fine.
That's always an error. So anyway, does anybody have any final questions? The people who are on screen, do y'all have any final questions for Connie before we let her go to bed?
Now, you know what it is actually? I have insomnia, and you are all the first to know this, at least outside of my family. I have insomnia, and I'm working with a sleep therapist. And one of the things he told me was not to be on computers, cell phones, all this electronic stuff after about 9 to 9:30. Now, I don't always follow that, but I do know that it makes a difference in my sleeping. Television is okay, strangely enough. But
yeah.
But not, I don't know, I guess it's a different, and I have something special on my computer. I hope it's working for talking after dark. But that is not about bedtime. It's about, needing sleep. But it's okay. One night is not going to hurt me. It's fine.
Well, maybe all the energy you've expended tonight will help.
And next time you ask me, make it earlier.
Well, the kickback is always from 8 to 9. But yes,
because it's
our regular interview, we'll make sure it's earlier in the evening when we do our regular. I appreciate that. But the kickbacks are always the second half.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Anytime is fine.
But that's okay. I understand. Oh, you had a question, the one.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was just going to ask her how long before the next book.
I am working on the next book, and it will be another domestic suspense novel. I'm not sure when it will come out. My deadline to hand it to the publisher is August. So maybe sometime in the spring or summer of next year.
Of 2024.
Yes, it should be out sometime in 2024.
Will we see some of these characters from this book in that one?
This is an entirely different group of characters. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for the book clubs that are participating tonight. We appreciate you very much. And when we have our next book club kickback, you'll get a notification.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to get those plates to you as soon as they come in, hopefully this week. But yeah, definitely. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Well,
thank you so much, Connie, for
you're welcome. Thank you
for being a part of the book club kickback. We enjoyed going over the story with you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And
anytime.
We hope to continue to sell bunches of books. That's what it's all about. Yes.
That always helps.
Okay. Well, good night.
All right. Thank you
to
again.
All the book club members.
Good night.
Lawana, Melinda, and Emma. We didn't see you, but thank you for being on, and we appreciate your participation.
Okay. No problem. Okay. I appreciate you having me. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right.
Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
So we are a little bit ahead we still have 5 minutes left or so of our time with the show. And so, Rhonda, do you have anything you want to let the audience know about?
Well, I've been going live every night. I didn't do it tonight because I had the show, of course, but I'll be going live tomorrow, and I'll be talking about different aspects of writing and publicizing your writing. And next month, I will be doing a virtual writers retreat. And then in August, I'll be doing a 5-day masterclass on fiction writing. So I would love to see a lot of you guys there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, more information to follow. I'm trying to stay busy. I enjoy doing what I do, and I love writing. So anytime I can share that love with other people, because there's so many people who want to be authors. They want to be published and write their first book, and they don't always know how. I just finished reading a person's story who asked me to help her with her book because she had trusted one of those vanity houses and they took advantage of her. And it's kind of sad because she had a nice story to tell, but they really, it was all about the money for them. And I'm not talking about any of our fellow authors. I'm talking about one of those houses that prey on people who just want to write their book. And so anytime I can help people like that, I like to do it.
That's good. You know, it's unfortunate that there are people out there that are unscrupulous, you know.
Yes.
That they know that there are people out there who have a story to tell, but they just don't know how to get it accomplished. And it's not the kind of story that they can get an agent and you know, get a book deal for. It's more of a personal story. And they get taken advantage of.
It's very sad. And so that's why I want to be able to help people to tell their story and trust that it's going to get out there. Whether they sell 1 million copies or just a couple, it's their story and it should be taken seriously.
Right, it should. It should. So coming up in the next few weeks, we have the whole month of June is booked. We won't have a show on July 4th because it's a Tuesday, falls on a Tuesday this year. So we're not going to have our show on July 4th, but we've already booked half of July with new books that are coming out. So we have that coming up. And, of course, the book festival is rapidly approaching. It rolls around so fast. Rhonda will be there again as our literary correspondent doing interviews with everybody. And you said you were going to try to come a little early. Are you still planning to do that, to do something?
Yeah, I still want to come about a day early because I want to have a little get together with, some of the authors. There's a number of authors whom I've established relationships with over the years. And I would love to be able to come early and to just kind of kick back with them and have a good time. We get so busy during the festival that we don't always get a chance to hang out.
That's true. And I never get to attend my event. I tell people that.
I know. You never do
it. My event because I'm working and then I'm exhausted. I'm still working. Exhausted.
Right.
Then it's over and I'm exhausted afterwards. And so I don't get a chance to attend my own event. But I really get gratification from the fact that people are there and some relationships are developed that are lifelong.
Right.
And deals get cut there. That's exciting. Publishing, people get publishing deals as a result of being there, and just they get to meet people they would never meet. And
absolutely,
so much inspiration and so much free information about marketing, social media, how to get better with your social media. We have, I think we have 5 publishers that'll be there talking about that. We have an agent this year that's going to be there talking about what agents are looking for. And so it's all of those sessions are free to the public. Anybody can attend.
Now, speaking of free, Angela Wood asked how she can get her autographed book. So she might have missed it when you gave those instructions a little bit earlier.
Oh, yes. Angela, you need to direct message the National Black Book Festival's Facebook page. So on the page you're on watching the show, send a direct message and send us your address and we will send you your book. Tell us you won the book. We have a list of the names of the people who won and we will send you your book in the mail. That's all there is to it.
Very easy.
Yeah. Thank you for watching and participating. So we are at the end of our time. We're a couple of minutes early, but so what? And we appreciate all of y'all who tuned in tonight. We love doing the show, and we love that it helps so many people, readers, authors, people in the industry. I hear from them all the time. So thank you all for watching, and we'll be back next week with another amazing episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.